Hello and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am your always host, Andy, and with me this week is your sometimes host, Matt. Matt, we are going to try to be civil to each other now, even though in a few weeks it might be war.
That's true. Yes, in a few weeks we will be mortal enemies. My Sixers have a destiny in front of them, and I'm not going to let anything stand in their way.
Yes, and obviously you can trust the process. I maybe not necessarily can trust it as much, but I have ideas. I think it's going to go the way I'd like. You know what didn't go the way they like?
What?
This episode for Desiree.
No, it did not. That was quite a flame out.
Yes, and let's get right into that instead of dancing around the idea. Talk fast before maybe possibly interruptions happen. So obviously Desiree made her big move. She decided that this was the time now to use the remaining Malolos, of which there were 4, and make a move against who she perceives to be the power players of the game. And I will note who I also perceive to be the powers of the game. And as when it did not work for her, she went from being completely safe to being out of the game. What did you feel about, and there's a lot of different ways to examine this, and we will probably do all of them. But I think first is, what did you think of just the attempt? Was it wise to try to do something, or was it unnecessarily risky?
I don't think it was unnecessarily risky. Here's the thing. I think Desiree saw that she was left out of the very first vote after the merge, the Chris Noble vote. She wasn't trusted with that information. She voted for who she vote for? Michael or something? Or
no, Libby.
That's right. Yeah, and she's even said in interviews that they didn't tell her it was Chris Noble. I mean,
for all the fan fiction people were putting out there to protect Desiree, that it was a vote split, which was really weird. Just one person splitting votes, because Angela, we know, also did not know. No, she was completely just left out of the loop. Continue.
Right. So here's the thing. You're out of the loop. Which, even if you're in an alliance where people are like, oh, there's no bottom. Oh, I'm with you. The one signal that you could have that you're on the bottom of the alliance is if people treat you like you're on the bottom of the alliance and they don't trust you. And they don't tell you who to vote for. So she knows that.
Speaking of out of the loop, here comes somebody who does not watch Survivor. Aren't there 2 of you?
Yes.
There
Let's
he
just bring
is.
the other one in now, and then this way we don't have any further interruptions.
Oh!
Ah!
I was trying to really quick.
You were, yes. You were very sneaky, sir.
Okay.
All right, Little Thor, do you have anything you would like to say to Matt?
Did you say anything?
Hi.
Just one moment, Alex. We'll get to you.
How are you?
How am I? I'm great. How are you?
Good.
What did you do tonight, Christopher, for the first time ever?
I play T-ball.
Wow. How'd you do? You get any hits?
And also, for my royals, I got Swurfies and the straw was a Deadpool straw.
Yes.
I spent money.
Cool. Very cool.
Yes. The most important part of baseball is
of
the
course.
after baseball Slurpees.
Oh,
And
that's
yeah, very excited for Deadpool straw. And maybe in about 10 to 15 years, I will let him watch a Deadpool movie. All right. Do you want to say goodnight to everybody, Christopher?
Good night.
Good night, buddy.
night.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, buddy.
Good night, Alex.
All right, Alex. You want to, or did you just want to dance in the background, or is there anything you wanted to say?
We're having this podcast.
No spoilers. Okay, so what are we going to do tomorrow?
Comic-Con.
Yes, we are going to the Calgary Comic-Con, and who are you dressing up as?
Miss Marvel.
Well, Ms.
Awesome.
Did you want to point out any of your work from the background here? This is very important.
I'll tell.
Yes, as part of the Canadian theme that I'm going with, he had to make sure to add Deadpool. Very Canadian, a great representation of Canada. Just a little moment. And Captain Canuck, it's actually his because
Wow.
reasons. Was there one other thing you wanted to say, Christopher? Oh, yes, and you are also dressing up at the superhero parade. And who are you dressing up as?
I want to tell you what I'm dressing up as, and who I'm dressing up as is Movie Falcon.
Movie Falcon. Awesome.
Why can I tell them about the podcast?
And what is your favorite Marvel character?
Who's my favorite Marvel character? My favorite Marvel character is the Hulk.
You like it when the Hulk gets angry, don't you, Christopher?
Yes.
Yeah, because
And
That's
when
what
he
I like
gets-
too.
And also when he gets beat up.
yeah, well, because that makes him angry. Okay, good night, both of you. Good night, Alex. And you go see your mom now, and I will see you tomorrow morning. There we go. It's something, but at least it shouldn't. Tonight.
I gotta say, I'm impressed with your kids' small talk. I don't think they learned that from you.
No, showing interest in other people's well-being, general state of mind, interests. Yes, they get that from their mother, and
Yes.
thank God. Not knowing exactly where we left off, I'm gonna say, yeah, I think it's also fine that Desiree wanted to do something. I know that wasn't necessarily the immediate reaction, at least from the people in our group. I really didn't take the time to see what the general reaction was because I had like 2.5 basketball games to watch last night.
Right. Which
And
is
actually-
impressive.
Yeah, after watching Survivor and dealing with them. But yeah, if you think your current situation isn't good enough to win, then trying to win isn't the worst thing in the world. And not to get into a full rant because I have much more of those planned later. Survivor is a game you lose early and often. It's a game that's actually pretty hard to win. It's very easy to lose. And it's something we know when we throw around the term GOAT all the time. And it should be noted that was a term thrown around to describe her.
Correct.
If that's where you're at, you need to work to change that perception early. And I know people like to roll their eyes at big moves. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a big move unless you're so far behind that you really need to change the perception of people. And so Desiree didn't think that she was in a good position to win. She was in a good position to hang around, but not in a good position to win. And she had reasons to think that. As you say, she was left out of the very first vote. That is a flashing light indicator. You are not important to our plans. Moreover, we don't even fear that you could interrupt them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's why I was fully in favor of her trying to make a move. I don't think the idea that she had to make a move was a bad idea. I don't even think the target she had was a bad target. I actually think Kellen was the right target because you're trying to get people there who because they've been voting with you, have ties to Wendell and Dominic that might be hesitant to vote for Wendell and Dominic right away. Kellen's the right target. I don't even have a problem with that. I have a problem with everything else that happened, not all of which was in her control.
Yeah, I would say, one note on whether it's wise to wait, and I agree, and we discussed this offline, that if you're trying to win people over, don't go after somebody they're most friendly with. And the person she's trying to win over primarily seems to be Laurel, or maybe the Laurel-Donathan pairing. And clearly they're closer to Wendell and Dominic, and not everybody knows how close, but they know that they've been on a tribe with them since the first swap. For Donathan, and then they were together in the first swap for Laurel, whereas Kellen has never been on a tribe together unless you consider the post-merge a tribe, and they give them stupid names, but it's not a tribe. It's dumb that they even call it a tribe. So from that perspective, it's good. The weak part is once you go after Wendell and Dominic's power base, they now know to play their idols, which apparently Desiree knew about if post show interviews are to be believed, which they might not need to be believed. But yeah, I agree. It was a fine target. And the plan, when we saw it last week in the previews, it's like, well, just you with the Malolos is something very good. I'll say, here's my other issue. I think it maybe was a week too early, because if this is successful, her allies are still outnumbered by the people she's aligning with. I would feel better about it if it's 6 people she's aligning with her side of 3, and those three. But sometimes you can't always wait for the perfect opportunity. But I do feel like she could have waited a bit more for a better opportunity, even if it was this very vote she's going for, because talking to everybody at once was probably not the best technique.
Yeah, so that's part of where I start having a problem with her. I actually think there is value in going for it this week, and the value I think is you keep Michael around. I think you want to keep Michael around because he's a good lightning rod within your new alliance as well as for without. People seem to really want to get rid of Michael, and I think that even if you then have like a new 7 there, and Michael's one of those 7, that could be an easy vote early on. Honestly.
Honestly, the biggest issue I have with timing is it's not clear to me that she cleared this with Chelsea and Angela yet.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. And it's also not clear, one thing was her timing might have changed if she knew that Angela did not have a vote.
Yeah, and that one I don't put anything on her at all for. Why would you ever anticipate that somebody within your planning group doesn't have a vote? So right. That's not something that, and I don't think it's something you're criticizing her for. But yeah, I think getting into that, talking to the bigger group is, it's, and she's come out and said that she's did more groundwork than what we saw. She's actually been talking to Laurel and had a good feeling that which she was proposing was good for Laurel. And frankly, and we will get to it, that which she was proposing was good for Laurel.
It was very good for Laurel.
Yeah, in fact, that's the one great thing about this attempt is that it really should, and you never know, everybody has different reasonings and all that, but on its paper, this is a move that's good for all of us. This isn't you helping me, this is us helping each other. Yeah. But what's problematic about executing a move where you're talking to everybody, although I don't think Michael was there, but there was some people. I'm not sure.
I thought he was, but you might be right.
Somebody can tell us whether or not in the comments, not in the chat. I never look at that in the comments. But where it's just that you just can't read people when you're dealing with that many people at once.
It's true.
Yeah, in a give or take back and forth, you can approach it a little more cautiously and feel them out. Now, a note I will say about that is I don't know if that's possible with Laurel. I'm not sure anybody really knows how Laurel's feeling at any given time.
I think you're right, and I think people have even commented on the fact that she's a bit of an enigma, that she's a bit of a cipher. I wonder if part of that is not just that Laurel is hard to read, that she's good at keeping her cards close, but also that Laurel doesn't necessarily know where Laurel will be feeling 2 hours from now.
Possible. So yeah, that was one part of the attempt that was not good. What else you got on the execution of her move?
So I think then the rest of the execution comes into play after she knows that Laurel blabbed. I think there's a couple different ways that could be handled. I think the way she handled that was not good. And I think the reason why is because what she's trying to do is she's trying to put the genie back in the bottle there, but it's already out. Everyone already thinks, that you talked about this, and there's 4 different people that are happy to throw you under the bus if you try to backtrack, because you trying to backtrack now makes you an easy target. I think really what she should have done was she should have kept going after Kellen. And, and this is why I think that even if Laurel's out, the other 3 might be in. And if you get Chelsea, then the worst you're getting there is a 5-5. And you know what? A 5-5 tie for Desiree is much better than getting voted right out today. And she might have thought that she had a better opportunity to pull it back than she did. But I think once that stuff is out, you have no chance to stuff it back in. You're getting voted out.
Yeah, and I actually think to start, she did an admirable attempt. I thought it was kind of slick what she tried to pull with Wendell walking by. But ultimately it fell apart because she was caught in a lie and she's lying, and people act a certain way when that was happening, and Laurel would probably be the last person I would be trying to out-calm in this sort of scenario, but Laurel also had the benefit of, the truth and, witnesses to said truth. One of which I think Donathan, I I don't know if he's lied in this game. Now, obviously, not everybody knows that, but he seems to be the guy just telling the truth out there.
Yeah.
So I think, his words probably carried weight. Laurel and her becomes a he said, she said, but then it's like, well, Laurel seemed like somebody I could trust, and you are falling apart here. So I agree that didn't work. I can understand why it happened. It's totally an emotional response. It's like, all those things happen, and why did you do that to me? But I do agree, because initially when people were like, you just got to keep going. It's like, well, how do you do it if the people you're going to keep going with don't want to do it? But she should have been trying to sell out Laurel at that point. And frankly,
I actually think that the first thing she should have done once she found out that Laurel blabbed was go talk to Laurel. And I think that's where the biggest mistake was, because the first thing she does is attack Laurel. Because then Laurel has her hackles up. So then Laurel has a real interest in selling out Desiree. And then the people that are working with Laurel are more protective of Laurel than they are of Desiree's new vote. So then they have an interest in also selling out Desiree. But if you go talk to Laurel first and you try to hash it out, and maybe it doesn't work, but then you don't confront her in a big group. You go to each of those other people and look, Laurel sold me out. You can't trust her to keep your stuff secret. I'm a better ally.
Sorry.
No. That was pretty much it.
No, sorry. I'm going to try not to do that, and nobody believes me. Go tell people. It's like, clearly she's more invested in being with Wendell and Dominic than...
You got there?
Yeah, it's because of the Donis and Dominic thing.
I know.
Here comes the thing. Then she is with being us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only explanation. It would be like, why did she do this?
Yep. And
let them draw their own conclusions, because... Yeah, I think that's also true. It would have the fun benefit of also being true. So I think she, once it went bad, and I think things that she did helped it go bad. She didn't. This was a plan that she had for a while. Obviously, while in Survivor is an incredibly relative term.
Well, let's say 6 days, maybe. I could believe that she's been thinking about this for 6 days.
Yeah. Or she may have been thinking about getting rid of Kellen since, one of the swaps. And that also helps explain why Kellen was a target. And the things that Desiree says about Kellen, which might not necessarily align to the things that the show is saying to us. And I don't feel like that's necessarily a conflict. No. For Desiree, Kellen has been the biggest power player that she's been around, at least the biggest surviving one, if you want to count Bradley in that, the person that the show never discusses anymore. But also, I do think that, she has some connections. Kellen had enough of a connection to know where the vote was going, that one vote, despite the fact that her supposed best ally was just backstabbed by those people. So I think that's fine, but it needed more finesse. And maybe more finesse than a 21-year-old is able to have. It's something that nobody's talking about. But if Michael wasn't on the show, we'd be, noticing that Desiree is, just barely an adult.
Yep. No, I mean, it's definitely true. I mean, and it's also kind of lost because so much of this cast is so young. But even compared to a young cast, Desiree, outside of a Michael, is quite young for Survivor. And, you don't always notice youth in day-to-day interactions. You typically notice it in situations like this.
Yeah, when they're just a little too anxious to do something. And again, I'm not criticizing her for being too anxious to do something, because I don't think even this completely blowing up on her changed her chances of winning where she was at all. The chances were zero either way. She needed to do something to make them non-zero. And I will never criticize somebody for deciding, I actually want to win and not just ride. And she was referred to as a goat. She was left out in this very episode. And people are like, well, that's just one man's opinion. Well, he felt free to say it to somebody else, and they didn't be like, oh, dude. No, she's being treated like a goat. She's being treated like an extra vote. And people who have left this game have intimated to us in exits that people like Desiree and Chelsea and Sebastian were just at camp. They weren't doing anything. This isn't, us making stuff up. That seems to be the perception. And the other person who is there who feels that this is the perception is Desiree herself. Correct. So I will believe her on this. And yes, if you're in that situation, and I actually think it was fine that she laid low for a bit, especially the fate that befalls a lot of people like her. But you can't lay low forever. The best case scenario is you get to the end and people were like, what are you doing? Actually, the best case scenario is Michelle Fitzgerald. But for the most part, you can't just wait for, always wait. And this was an opportunity. Maybe, the next vote would have been a slightly better opportunity. But, the game changes. And we've hinted at this. It was, it failed on Desiree. I think she, came out with this just like, you tried and you missed, but for very specific reasons. Why does Laurel not want this? Why? Last week she didn't want it, and it was defensible. I even defended it while raising a few red flags.
Yep.
I'm not defending it this week.
No. I'd be very surprised if you did, but this seemed like such a good deal for Laurel. I mean, it seemed like she would be part of a new controlling 7-person alliance where she would be one of 4 Malolo, and I think that she would have as good a shot at winning. I think she would be the second favorite in that 7 after Michael. I think she has to get rid of one person.
Yeah, somebody who that actually should be fairly easily achievable. So I'd say her odds are actually even better. If you're ranking jury odds, Michael's probably a little ahead, but he has the harder path to get there.
Correct. And the other thing is, I don't think that she would be perceived as enough of a threat where people would be gunning for her like they would for Michael. I think that she would have, I think if she went to the finals with her, Donathan, and Jenna. I could not remember the last Malolo alive. That's a real problem. But if she went to the finals with her, Donathan, and Jenna, that might be tough, tight between her and Donathan. But I think she would win that, honestly. And I think she, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, you were calm and you took a leadership role and all that. And
you changed the game at this moment and flipped it to your scenario. You started from the bottom and got there.
Exactly. And I think Donathan would have a problem. Not because people wouldn't like him. I think people would love Donathan. I think Donathan would have a problem where people, because he is Southern, because he's from, because of his background, I don't think people would take him seriously as the brains behind the operation.
No. I think, last week I was like, she's going to find a 4 with 3 people she can't beat. And then I was like, actually, Donathan would be a toss-up. But it'd be tough for him to be like, this was my moves. And even if it were true, people just wouldn't necessarily believe it. Just because, frankly, look at the audience. People have been falling over themselves to just pour credit into Laurel in her amazing ability to sit and listen to things.
Correct.
And
hey, that's a good skill.
It's something. It's not nothing.
She's learned all the secrets out there, and then she has gone and told them to everyone because she doesn't realize the power of a secret is having the secret.
Yeah, including if Desiree's exits are to be believed, the possession of idols by 2 of her allies. And, that'd be fine. Telling Michael that'd be great if she was actually planning to make a move on Dominic and Wendell. But if you are still holding to the idea that she is planning to make a move on Wendell and Dominic, I gotta just call a fan fiction on this one.
Yeah.
Because in this very episode, not only was she presented with a choice and didn't go for it, people would be like, oh, Desiree was erratic. And I was like, because anytime somebody makes a move, it's like, why would you ever play with somebody that erratic? As though Dominic is somebody who's just completely chill and just going to do everything. She says it. She says that I am comfortable with them, that, this is a good spot and a good plan for me to go to the end. She is planning to. And moreover, she's going to run out of opportunities pretty soon if she hasn't already. I think she's boxed herself into a corner that she has to go with them.
And here's the other thing. If she made this move, if she flipped the game here, she would have choice. She would have so much choice about who she could go with, who she could align with. She is, as you said, she's completely boxed in with Wendell and Dominic. This is who she has to go with. She has to go with those two. And the problem is she ain't beating them. I mean, and the fact of the matter is she is just like working to their benefit. Like, you know how sometimes some survivors, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, think that everyone should kind of like do what they think they should do because it's for that one survivor's best interest rather than other people's best interest?
Yeah.
Laurel is that person that is doing what is in someone else's best interest. She is working in Wendell and Dominic's best interest right now, not her own.
In successive opportunities to do so. Yeah. Yep. And frankly, against the wishes of, her other main alliance partner, or at least, the suggestions, And I said, like, when it was happening and she just decided, I'm just going to go tell Dominic about this. And moreover, when she gives that confessional that, like, this is what she wants, this is where she feels comfortable.
Yeah.
All I could think of is she better win. She better win. This is your call. This is what you decided. This better be your winning ticket, or I just watched you lose Survivor. And I want it noted for everybody that if she does get to the end and she doesn't get any votes, and we're going to start a campaign about how awful this is, and obviously there's some degree that, like, why is Dominic and Wendell considered a favorite? Okay, but this is it. This was your chance, and you blew it, and it happened all the way at final 11. It didn't happen at the end. And what I think a lot of people have this problem is what the criticism of Desiree. Why would you even bother upsetting the apple cart? You weren't in any danger. Again, why would Laurel stick her neck out there? For not a sure thing, even though the thing I was trying to do last week is point out that her current situation, the status quo she was maintaining, was also not a sure thing. So sometimes you just got to do stuff.
Could get flipped by someone like Desiree pulling a couple people over and voting your allies out.
Just like that, yeah. Just like that. But it's just like, I think people sometimes just misunderstand, and they shouldn't. Obviously, they're watching Survivor, like they know it in their heads, but they just in their instincts of like what Survivor actually is, and it's not just stick around and you could win.
Yes.
And the analogy I came up with is you can stick around a poker game if you just fold all the time. As long as the blinds don't go up fast enough, maybe you win a hand here or there, or other people take bigger swings and they're out. But what will happen is you'll be facing off against somebody who has all the chips and you can't win. You lost a long time ago when you refused to actually take chances to improve your situation to win. Getting to the end isn't good enough. Ken and Hannah lost Game of Survivor long before they ever got to the end. Frankly, that's hopefully why they got to the end, is everybody's like, yeah, I'm beating them, so why would I ever,
Yep.
I mean, obviously Ken had some involvement in getting himself there, but also I don't think anybody was going to vote for him if he wasn't immune. So, and that's, I think we watched her lose, and maybe it'll work out. And I'll say, if it works out because other people flip the game and she just hangs around, no credit. You don't get credit for that. You had the chance and you didn't want to do it. You wanted to hang out with the people that made you feel comfortable, which is a perfectly human and natural thing. But a lot of losing Survivor techniques are perfectly natural human things.
Right. And you know who I'm going to give credit for right now? Wendell and Dominic, for making her feel comfortable, making her feel very comfortable and not willing to flip. I think Wendell and Dominic should be getting the credit for this episode, because guess what? Everyone else is spiraling out of control here, they stayed calm and they reassured their allies against their allies' best interest, and they're still in control.
Yeah, let's skip ahead to that now. I have it on the list, but like they're pretty well insulated because, and I was suggesting this last week with Emma, nobody seems to really want to go after them, or like obviously some people do, but that just keeps getting shot down pretty quickly. It's like Kellen should want to go after them again, and maybe she actually didn't want to play with Bradley either. I mean, it's by this point it's starting to be that, but like she's like cool with them and. She's boxed into a corner. Who else is she working with at this point? It's not Desiree. It's not the Navidi women.
Well, I think that's so. This is what I think Kellen's long-term plan was. I think Kellen's long-term plan was Navidi mows down Malolo one by one. They get down to 7, and then she and the other 3 women take out the guys because she thought the women were with her. She thought tonight, basically the entire time, that the women were with her. Everyone was telling her Desiree was lying to her face, and she's like, "She's not lying. She's not lying." She gave a big whole speech about that, and Dominic just kind of stood there and took it, and then obviously convinced her to vote for Desiree because she was lying.
Yeah, and tonight was Dominic's most impressive episode yet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think a good turn for the guy who, just couldn't keep his mouth shut for a minute to start the very game, And
he was just so unnerved by Chris Nobleness.
yeah.
Couldn't handle it.
Yeah, once that competition for his attention and ego was removed, I think he's good now. He's like, this is cool. Okay, I can calmly sip my tea and just let this craziness happen. And as you say, give people what they need. I'll even let Kellen just attack and like make her demands right now, and then win. At the end, as adamant as she was, at the end, Kellen voted for Desiree. And obviously, we don't know at what point did she actually decide this is true, or did she just feel like this is what I have to do? And so I think Kellen has to work with them now. I think Laurel has to work with them now. I think Chelsea probably wants to work with them. I mean, she worked with him to get rid of Bradley.
Yep.
Angela just is never going to turn on them, no matter what, even though they just left her out of another vote.
Well, maybe. We don't know.
Maybe. I know.
She didn't have a vote.
It's true. We don't know. I bet they left her out of the vote.
I bet they probably did too, honestly.
Well, actually, in my small bit of proof, although reaction shots at Tribal Council are probably mostly fiction. She seemed, when Desiree went home, to feel like both disappointment and maybe a little bit of guilt, like, oh no, my vote could have saved you. But maybe it was guilt in that she knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I
mean, I also wonder if maybe they left her out because they just kind of forgot about her. They're like, okay, we got to round up our votes. We got, I got this. I got Sebastian. They got, it's like Jenna. I've talked to Michael, Kellen. Am I missing anyone? Nah, we're good. We're good.
We locked in. Yeah, I've talked to some of the other ones. This is good. Yeah. So last week I suggested that if Desiree takes her shot and fails, what's the point? Don't bother. Just still stick with the plan. Get rid of a Malolo. Desiree has essentially neutered herself. But now that we've seen it, what's your opinion on the decision to take her out by Dominic?
No, I think it's a good move. I think the second you hear, right now you have the numbers, you have them pretty good, and the second you hear that kind of talk, even if you can't fully believe it, I think you make the move and you take the person out, and I mean, again, I think this one was pretty verifiable. I don't think there was a lot of doubt in people's heads about like what actually happened, and you just remove that right then and you move on.
For me, more is like, especially for Dominic, the threat of a GOAT alliance is much more dangerous to him than Michael ever is. Michael is actually protective to Dominic.
Exactly. Well, just like Spencer was for Tony.
Yeah. And I liked his move to go to Michael and then to start talking about, let's form, the big dog alliance here, because also that might help maybe lull Michael into a false sense of security down the line. But yeah, I think, looking at, especially for Dominic's position, because I'll also say for Kellen, I understand this made me wanting to keep Desiree anyway, if you don't believe, again, not if you hear that she's coming for you and actually believe it.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, no, Michael is more dangerous to Kellen, although it should be noted that she's been on tribes with him for like all of everything but 6 days, and she came into the merge talk bragging about her relationships that she made at the swaps. Michael shouldn't necessarily be a danger to him. He could be an asset. He was suggesting such at the reward, but not to Kellen. No, man. She has this epic plan to pick off everybody.
Remember the fan fiction that Kellen's plan was to actually work with where Michael was deeper into her alliance than Angela was?
Yeah, or even possibly Desiree.
Desiree. Yeah. Just saying.
I believe I already sent you on your way, young sir. All right, it's still the same guy. I'm still talking to him. He still, has that face.
Why does it look like why I'm on this side
and then it reverses? I know it. It's kind of like a mirror, buddy. Only I think even reversed one more time, because to me the words are backwards. You have to go to sleep, okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, so I I was impressed with Dominic, and moreover, I think this goes one more episode to making things even more secure for Wendell and Dominic, especially because every week they go without having to play an idol is one more week they still have an idol. Yep. Another person who has an idol now, because everybody gets idols, is Laurel's other partner, seemingly her closest partner, and Donathan. Yep. And do we make anything out of the fact that he seemingly wanted to make these past two moves and collaborate with the former Malolos? He's still, chummy enough with them that he's telling them about his idol pursuit, going on idol hunts with them, asking them to cover for her. And Laurel isn't really about that Malolo life. What do we make of that?
I mean, I think Donathan just is trying to keep his options open. I think Donathan realizes that he would have a tough time beating Wendell and Dominic, though he also knows that staying in good with them is good if you can't overturn them, if you can't overthrow them and get a counter alliance. Yeah, why not be in with the power people so that you'll at least go far?
Yeah. I mean, he's not gonna hurt himself by stepping out in a failure move, but both times he's been amenable to. That's not how you say that word. Amenable. I can't say that apparently. Agreeable to the idea. Now, whether he fully pulls, it's still in the planning stages, as we see with him. And yeah, I like it because I think what Donathan has done that Laurel seems to refuse to do is recognize that, we got past the swaps now. That danger isn't here at the same level. Yep. Now, obviously, it's still a danger. There's still floor to that, but, the opportunities are here and something must be done. I'm not just going to hang around and wait for my number to come up. There's only a few chances to, change Joan's position, and we should consider this. So, obviously I'm impressed by that because that's what I always want. But I will totally cop to it. I prefer it when survivors try to win rather than not lose.
I agree. And I prefer when survivors are open to opportunities rather than shut them down and immediately blab them to the people on top.
Yeah. And again, maintaining status quo is great if the status quo benefits you.
Correct.
But Laurel ain't Sophie here. She's not going to the end with Albert and Coach.
Nope.
She's going to get to the end with, seemingly the most liked person in the tribe, Wendell, and the person that most people are probably starting to buzz about he's the biggest player out here, with not a lot of other connections, and the other connections keep trying, like, hey, cool, yeah, let's do this, let's help ourselves out. And maybe Laurel just can't conceive of an idea that she is amongst the people that need to do something to shake things up. But no, I don't want to invent stuff. She said that she wanted to work with Wendell and Dominic. Every indication that's happened suggests that to be true too. I'm going to take it as written until I hear or see otherwise. In fact, until I see otherwise. Hearing isn't enough at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, for Laurel to convince me that this is not what's happening, she has to be willing to make a move. She has to say, hey, I want to improve my position. Hey, I want to do something. And, she has to be willing to do that. And I just don't see her ever being willing to do that.
Yeah. And, the onus is no longer on me to prove otherwise. Yep. This episode kind of laid it out. And obviously edits and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, if the edit is telling us that, there might be a reason why. Because that might spell out her ultimate fate. Another person's edit who seems to be spelling something for her long-term prospects is Kellen. What do we think of how Kellen presented tonight?
Oh, I thought Kellen just had the best reads on people, didn't she? Just wow, just so insightful.
I mean, this is a continuation, right? This is a continuation of the theme and the way she's been treated. The way she's like, I love you guys, but I'm never going to do anything about it. Well, there's nothing that can overturn this. This plan is rock solid. It's epic. Nothing bad can ever happen to Navidi. And it was, I don't see how you win with the show underlining just how poorly you're reading a situation, even if, maybe especially if by the end of the episode you made the right call, right? By the end of the episode you did that, but and then obviously the show doesn't want to completely show that because of suspense of the way the vote is going to go. But they really laid into the fact that scene, her ally going all out to betray her. Next scene, no way, there's no way she would ever betray me. Yeah, I kind of feel like they don't do that to winners.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. I thought the best scene in this episode was the conversation between her and Dominic. And I thought that scene just buried her. I thought that scene was so bad for her long-term prospects because she is railing into Dominic. She's telling him, we have to vote Michael tonight. It's our turn to make a decision. We let you have those 2 votes. It's our turn, Michael tonight. And then they vote Desiree.
Yeah, and let you have what? Were you against the idea of voting for Chris Noble? Okay, that's one, maybe. That seems odd, but okay, that's one. They voted for Michael last week. Was that like Dominic's idea then, but now it's not?
Right. You split the vote. He played an idol. Libby went home. Michael would have gone home.
Yeah. So, yeah, unless Libby was her main target, but I doubt it. Because if she wanted Libby gone, she could have done it those weekdays before. But yeah, I agree. That scene is, again, a continuation of the trend. And I think the more definitive, right? I railed a few weeks ago on like her just frustrating indecision at the simplest Ghost Island decision. Ghost Island, just what a bang up concept, by the way.
Oh yeah, they're nailing it.
Yeah. And then the way she's just gone, man. She's just yelling and railing like this is just advanced level social play. I think we just saw what Kellen is like when things start to not go her way and when the pressure mounts, and it's not good.
No, it's not. I mean, Kellen is so devoted to this Navidi strong. Like, there's no wiggle room in her plan. There's no ability to, oh, hey, new information, let's change it up. There's nothing for that. Stuff happens, and she's like, no, we stay Navidi strong. Other Navidi have to stay Navidi strong for you to do that.
Yeah, forget being blinded to the fact that Desiree is currently betraying her specifically. Mm-hmm. The person she is talking to is Dominic, who has gone at that point when she's talking to him to 4 tribal councils, and in 3 of them he voted for Navidi. Tonight was his 4th.
Yep.
So this whole idea that Navidi is so strong and nothing will ever break out, tell that to the guy who voted for Angela, who voted for Bradley, and who voted for Chris Noble.
That's right.
I don't know if everybody's on this Navidi strong tip as you are, and maybe you should take a look around and notice.
Yeah, I mean, and so we alluded to this earlier, but Kellen is the type of Survivor player who thinks that what's best for her is best for everyone else. And she makes the mistake of thinking that they will also think that. That's not the case.
Because if Navidi held on, that is pretty good for her, because for one, that means they're not targeting her. But for 2, I think she actually had done a very good job in getting herself near the top of, alliances and power structures within that group.
Yes.
Dominic clearly does not feel that way. Dominic is feeling, probably rightly, that the majority of the most dangerous players to him were in his original tribe. That, frankly, Kellen had already taken out a lot of the threats in Malolo. And, one of the 2
Great
other...
for Dominic.
Yeah. 2 other people that might have been threatening to him are his secret allies. And then there's Michael, who is a shield more than a threat at this point. Right. Could one day be a threat, but I mean, really, how many more seasons is it going to take before people notice that dudes don't win challenges anymore?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
We shall see. Let's mark it. But, we've had 1 male win in challenges for the past 2 seasons. Obviously, they did not see the last season. And they're it's just starting to build up, but I also don't feel like it's that recent a trend in non-Joe Anglim seasons. But yeah, and I think the contrast between those people, to get back to that scene with Dominic and Kellen, which is making me think we've talked about it so much, I should have used that as the header photo for this podcast instead of what I did choose. What a contrast, right? She's flipping out. And he's just calmly, listening to her, taking the feedback, and then at the end, got his way.
Yeah, I was actually so impressed with Dominic in that scene. I honestly didn't know that he had that in him. That's really hard to do, to listen to, to take your moment, stay calm, and then just convince someone to do what you want. And he was doing it all episode. Desiree, Laurel comes to him telling that Desiree's flipping out. He doesn't lose it there. He stays calm. He loses it in the confessionals.
That's cool.
But that's where you want to lose it. That's where that's the place. That's the safe spot.
I actually only flip out in my podcasting confessional life. In real life, I'm more of a Dominic sipping water type dude.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely believe that.
In my real life, I'm probably more like a Chelsea you forgot that was there because I'm not talking to anybody type dude.
Disappear into the corner type dude.
Something like that, or it's like, what? Go out? Why? Why do we have to be out?
It's overrated.
I would know. All right. So we briefly touched about this earlier, maybe so much so that I don't need to get to it, but we'll say, yeah, I think Angela's left out for another vote. And I guess the question is more, do we have any reason to hope that she'll actually do anything about this?
No, that's Angela. She has, no, she's not going to, I mean, if anything, what she's going to do is throw a Malolo further under the bus so she can get back in with the Navidi that she's on the bottom of.
I hope it happens, and I hope you all laugh alongside with me. That her great plan is, no matter how many times that they say, they clearly make they make it clear, you're not with us, Angela. We don't care about you, and you're not really a part of this. She'd be like, oh man, this is the time. One thing I noticed about Angela this episode, she weirdly over enunciates all her words, and maybe this is especially true when she's like reading, and that's why it struck me this episode, because she had to read the various instructions at Ghost Island. Bang up scene, just amazing. Ghost Island winner. It was great. I was glad to see somebody lose. First off, of course, I'm glad to see her lose. But at least it proves that losing does happen.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily get rid of any of my conspiracy things, because maybe all three canisters had no vote. I mean, frankly, what are they going to give somebody another extra vote? There's only so many cursed advantages out there. The answer is yes, sure, everybody gets something.
Yeah.
Just listen to it. Listen for it next time she speaks, which I can't guarantee will be next episode. It's just the game of chance. And then even when she's voting or not voting, I guess, it's like, an intense stare. She's just an intense, a more intense personality for somebody also so boring.
Yes.
Thus completing our Angela section of the podcast, which, 2 weeks in a row, bang up job.
Yeah.
All right. So getting back, no, this isn't a Ghost Island thing. This is Donathan finding the idol, which brings us to our weekly, semi-weekly, every once in a while segment of the Ghost Island relic relitigation, where they bring back something from the past and we talk about it and how it went or whatever we want to talk about with the past. And this time it was the super idol from Kaoh Rong, which Ty famously did not play for Scott Pollard. Which, some people are like, how is that cursed? Ty did fine things. Like, well, it cursed Scott Pollard. He could have just played an idol.
Yeah. I mean, and that was actually a really good scene in Kaoh Rong. That was like really exciting and like a big dramatic moment. But I think you have some feelings about this, and I kind of want to let you just go for a moment here. I'm gonna walk away, and you won't even notice that I'm gone.
Yeah, and I know you're sitting down. Other people might want to as well, because that was great. Everybody loved it. Scott Pollard, who's just awful, and actually proceeded to be even more awful, both there and in social media, real life. Got what it was coming to him. Those bullies, Scott and Kyle. The ladies are taking over. Aubrey makes this amazing social play to win Ty back after he had been with them. In fact, after things had turned, and I was actually really pissed that they voted out Debbie instead of actually doing something. I'm like, you guys are running out of opportunities now. They have the super idol, blah blah blah. They showed them. This is a great strike, and that's why Kaoh Rong is so much fun, because we get to see all these non-traditional characters doing so well. Except that, at that moment, Ty might have just lost the season, because from that moment on, he was effectively branded a flip-flopper, even though everybody fucking loved that he flip-flopped. That the only reason why most of those people remaining in the game had any level of success is because Ty helped them. And thanks a lot for that.
But he wasn't branded a flip flopper by the people in the game. He was branded a flip flopper by the assholes who he sent to the jury.
Yeah,
by
now obviously
Scott, by
Kyle
Jason,
was there long enough
by
to
their anonymous third, whose name I forget. What was her name?
Julia. Yes.
Julia. Yes.
Yeah, so like, yeah, all this, great success for all these fun characters. Yeah, the sweetest man in the history of Survivor was branded like a traitor because he got rid of dirtbags. And he was branded that by one of the dirtbags. And everybody can go with that. And moreover, those dirtbags helped brand Aubrey in weird freaking ways. They're like, she's just controlling, she is not in control of the game because she controls somebody's vote. And a lot of people are like, Ko Rong is really great as long as you ignore the final outcome. Now, some people are perfectly fine with the final outcome. I think more people have convinced themselves they're fine with the final outcome because they don't like it that Probst is not happy with the final outcome. And somehow they think if Probst doesn't like this, then I have to. But you know what else was a whole lot of fun as long as you ignore the final outcome? The 2016 U.S. presidential election. That was great. You can't remember it now, but Hillary was killing it. She destroyed every debate. She was up in the polls the whole time in record numbers. People were giving her like 98% chances. We're like, oh my God, there's a P tape. This guy's a moron. We're going to get the first woman president ever who will defeat the like literal human embodiment of misogyny. And like I remember it happening. We're like, oh my God, could she win Texas? Could she win Georgia? Is Utah going to go third party? It was so much fun. And then election day happened. And we found out that all those success indicators, all those things that we thought were fun, they didn't matter. None of it mattered. In fact, what we were actually watching was possibly the worst human being in the entire world winning. Now, luckily, Michelle's not the worst human being in there. That's where the analogy falls a bit apart. But the assholes won. In Ko Rong, the assholes won. They found the pretty girl who was nicest to them, and that's who they voted for. They never were going to vote Ty. They were never going to vote Aubrey. They were never going to vote Sydney. And to the people like, that's only 2 votes, or even if 3, you want to be Julia. Early people in the jury helped dictate the way people think and feel. So yeah, Ko Rong was so much. And you know what? The other assholes that won Ko Rong? Edgic. So don't talk to me about how Ko Rong was so much fun, except the final outcome. The final outcome proved that all those fun moments, including and maybe possibly most especially Scott getting betrayed by Ty, were actually watching the good guys lose.
It was like watching a Zack Snyder comic book movie where where you think you're rooting for heroes, but really the heroes are the assholes. The assholes are the winners.
If only Aubrey's mom was named Martha.
Oh yeah, that would have done it then.
But yeah, so to tie this up to that, it's like, yeah, that was an awesome moment that also probably doomed the 2 people most responsible for making it happen.
Yeah, and
helped the person who had no idea that it was happening. That was your winner. Yeah, Ko Rong.
Happy to get that off your chest.
Yeah, maybe I'm ready to go walk past this. Maybe I'm ready to go. I mean, probably not. People
are going to argue about this, and this is going to be the most talked about part of the podcast. I guarantee it.
Yeah, but tell me where I'm wrong. Try to remember until election night how much fun you were having when like Hillary Clinton was like 98% likely to win the presidency, and Donald Trump looked like the worst candidate in the history of ever.
I think you're having some Canadian memory selection here. I was not having fun, and I was super fucking nervous the entire fucking time.
Well, I also say that we were pretty nervous during Ko Rong too, because a certain segment kept telling us that one thing was going to happen.
And we didn't believe it was going to happen, and we convinced ourselves it wasn't until pretty much the last moment. So that part I will accept.
I remember people were getting pissed at Nate Silver because he was only like 82%. Like, what's the stick up his butt?
No, I remember that too.
So there you go. Moving on.
Yeah.
Apparently next week, 2 people are going home, and it should be noted for people that might have missed or whatever. This is something Jeff Probst says to you. Tonight, you are going to send 2 people home. So that does not mean that this is 2 boring episodes that they squish together 1 hour to get them out of the way. Nope. This doesn't mean it's not 2 hours of just 2 episodes being shown on the same night. This is some format of which we not know. They're going to tribal council once. Maybe it'll be 2 separate votes within that. Who knows? And 2 people are going home. Correct. So, that's just important to note, especially if you're somebody who's thinking, well, this means it's boring. No, it could still mean that. It could mean that the people who go home this way were under-edited. I kind of feel like that's not as much of a thing as people like to make it out to be. No, I don't feel like the rocked home edit is actually a real thing, especially because it's happened to like 3 people. 3? Right. Yes, 3. And I think there could be other explanations why 2 of those people weren't heavy featured characters. I think Pascal was fine enough edited, so I don't know if that's the thing.
Wait, you think Pascal was featured?
Featured enough.
I mean, I guess.
Especially because back then, Survivor was edited in a much different way that most people were featured in some level of way.
Okay.
Enough that we realized that, like, that guy's kind of a racist Southern judge, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's just the thing. I don't, that doesn't necessarily. You can take with that information and factor it or not into your prediction. What do you got for a prediction?
I actually think that information is really important, and this is why. If you're voting for 2 people in one night, you can't do something where you vote for one obvious target and then target someone from your alliance with the second vote. Because that just opens a lot of people up to flipping on the first vote on you and then going with the second vote their way. So I think whatever the votes are, they're going to be the same strategy unless they do something where it's like the 2 highest vote getters of 1 vote. I don't think they're going to do that because I think that's pretty unfair. But if it's 2 votes, I say you have to stick to one strategy and vote out basically 2 people that are aligned. Which to me, I'm going to go Michael and Jenna.
Yeah, and then the other thing to note is within that preview was a shot of 2 immunity necklaces.
True.
So, and which we don't know what that means. It means 2 immunities, but does that mean 2 challenges so that you could be immune from both votes?
Or from the first vote, or from the second vote, or or both, right, or both. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if you win immunity, are you immune twice, or do you have to win immunity twice to be immune twice? Is there one immunity for the first vote and another immunity for the second vote? Is it as I've done in some past seasons, 1 male immunity holder and 1 female immunity holder? Typically, they do that right at the merge, but it's been done other times. The Worlds Apart, it was done later.
And there's still lots of people, so you can still do that.
Yeah. And in fact, this could be how a dude finally wins. And I'm going to say, I think Michael will be immune. And frankly, I'm starting to buy in the idea that necessarily he's not going home just yet. That the edit has bigger plans for him. I'm not fully into that because I've seen young attractive men get a lot of attention and then just kind of go. I'm old enough to remember Joe Anglim, but. I guess there's also the thing is like, well, would he be featured if it was the way if he just goes home in a weird double boot episode? Same time, yeah, he would be featured. He played 2 idols. Yes, yeah. He would be featured.
And he was the underdog for like a lot of the game. Survivor likes the underdog.
But I'm going to say that because I agree that they would just go after. You said Michael and Jenna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to say they can't go after Michael, and thus they go after Jenna. And then it was like, well, another Malolo, but they don't want to go after Laurel and Donathan. And frankly, they shouldn't go after Laurel because she's one of them. And I'll say they'll finally get rid of Angela because she's just like, whatever, sure, another.
Yeah, so just kind of keep the second vote from her and just, they just talk to everyone. Yeah, they basically are like, oh, yeah, vote for Angela.
Yeah, I mean, when she goes home, she will be voting the way they told her to vote. They just won't be telling her the way that the vote was going, and obviously that being her, unless, of course, as you say, like top 2 vote getters or something like that, which I think would be awful. I think that's a bad.
I think that would be awful too. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think. I don't think it's too early for Michael to go home, and the reason why is because if Michael goes home here, we're down to a final 8. we probably only have a couple more episodes before the finale. So it's not like he's going home super early. It's more like he's going home like 3 weeks before the finale.
Yeah, no, I predicted him last week. I don't think he has that. I'm starting to buy in. It's like I just don't think it's this week.
That's
and
fair.
I think honestly, the 2 immunity necklaces might be enough for me to think that. So
yeah.
Other than that, I mean, there's just so much information we don't have that it's not a strong pick. But
yeah, no, it's not.
All right. Hey, what? I think that's about it. Do you have anything else for the episode you want to discuss?
Going to see Infinity War this weekend, Andy?
I am. I'll be taking one of those superhero fans you saw. The other one would never sit still for something that long. You know what?
What?
Infinity got me thinking. And it also has me thinking is what my son kept trying to spoil. I think it's time for us to talk about what we're going to do this offseason.
Yeah. What are we going to do over the summer?
Now, we're not quite at the finale, so it seems a little early to discuss this, but because of recent events, because you were on the podcast this week, and I can't guarantee that you're going to be on again, but I mean, apparently it's not that...
with the way John's been acting, I feel like there's actually a decent shot of that.
Yeah, but so this, once Survivor is done, we are going to take another break from Survivor, which we did in this last offseason, and it was great. But we're going to... Instead, Matt and I will be starting up a brand new project, and that will be a new podcast.
Yeah. What's it called, Andy?
The podcast will be called the Infinity Stone Podcast, where we, so topically, will be going through every movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sure, other people decided that it would be a great idea to watch all of these leading up to a movie that's coming out this weekend. Those people are suckers. Wait till
exactly.
It's over.
Yeah, we are doing a lead up to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's right.
The real event this summer. The one that we know everyone really cares about.
Yes, we will be examining how the Incredible Hulk ties into Ant-Man and the Wasp. No, I mean, look, we had this idea, and part of it was driven that we had fun discussing Die Hard in the offseason. Part of it was that I enjoy talking about Survivor, but Survivor isn't like necessarily one of my top 5 interests in life. So it's like, hey, it would be fun to discuss something else, and these might be like, part of it is the examples you keep seeing. Interrupt my podcast. I have superhero driven children. These are some of my favorite movies. I really dig them, and I wanted the opportunity to discuss them. And if you're wondering what qualifications do you and I have for doing a movie podcast, and the answer is about the same qualifications we had for doing a Survivor podcast.
Right. And if you're wondering, it's like, well, what, unique thing do we bring that is not out there? Well, that is literally the very first thing we will be talking about on the first episode. So if you're curious, you can listen to us say that. And if that doesn't satisfy you, tune out.
Yeah. So we will be letting you know when that's going to happen. It will be its own podcast, its own site, its own terribly named Twitter handle.
Oh, yeah.
Because
all the good ones are taken. All the good ones are taken.
Except for like the most obvious one, which is one character too long. Yes. And we will let you guys know through the existing channels that we have when that's about to happen. We will probably post the first episode on the Purple Rock podcast. But from then on, you decide whether you want to be an audience for this content or not. And they will all be video podcasts. And we will try to take advantage of the video medium, perhaps even more than setting up a few things in the background. But mostly
or letting your kids interrupt that in the middle of our thoughts.
That's right. Instead of the middle, we got a plan. So if that's the sort of thing that interests you, well, hopefully we'll see you. And if you're worried that you might not be as big enough dork about this sort of thing, don't worry too much about that. So the things that I said we will be promoting this on are right now our Purple Rock channels, and that would be our website at www.purplerockpodcast.com, where you every Wednesday during the show do a live blog, and we've switched formats for that. That's fun, huh?
Because Storyfy died, and I have to use a similar but slightly inadequate format.
Yeah. I mean, this is what happens when we rely on software that we never want to pay for. So I guess that's the thing. Like, why did this not work? Well, I never gave them a dime. I use it all the time. This might also be why, our comment system is slightly broken right now because, again, we don't pay for it. Nope. Twitter, currently, the show is at Purple Rock Pod. Sometimes somebody tweets during the show, but apparently not often. I am Purple Rock Andy, and you are
Purple Rock Matt.
You can subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play.
All the other places you get a podcast.
And hopefully soon that will be true of the Infinity Stone podcast. I mean, soon as in when it exists.
Look for it at the end of May. That's what I would suggest.
Yes. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. I'm going to hit stop. And in an hour or so, I will be adding music to this. So enjoy.
There was flames, cops to